Hello, and welcome
Hello.
to A Critical Dragon, where I talk about narrative in film, television, and in books. And today I am joined by the co creators of the Malazan universe, Ian C. Esslemont. Say hello, Cam.
Hello. If it's laggy, I apologize. I'm too far away.
And Stephen Erikson.
Hello.
So just to warn everyone at home who is watching this, Cam's having a bit of an internet issue. We're going to do our best. It's very rare to get both of you in an interview at the same time.
Yeah.
So far, yes.
But I am very pleased that you treat it as it's a formal interview. You're dressed formally.
Oh yeah.
It was just a coincidence.
It's coincidence.
Yeah. Oh well, I just assumed that's how you always dressed. You're just walking around the house. Oh, I must do some writing. Where's my bow tie?
Pretty much. I mean, I got up this morning, thought, yeah, okay, tux day, and so here I am. I'm not going anywhere today, but whatever.
Yeah, we need an excuse to wear them now.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the big disadvantages. Well, one of the many disadvantages of COVID has been, none of the conventions, none of the conferences, none of the chances to every once in a while just to dress up.
I know.
So, E.J. Hollings had asked, what were the influences behind the character creation of the crippled god? There appear to be possible analogies to Egyptian and Norse mythology, possible Buddha. Did any other mythologies also contribute?
Well, I'll let Steve go first on.
Oh, thanks, Cam. Not consciously, not at least from my point of view. But I suspect that as one explores the character and the role in that universe, through the novels, various, I guess, mythological influences slip their way in there. But I certainly wasn't conscious of any. I mean, one of the things we were looking to do with the Malazan stuff was to really disconnect it from any earth-based mythologies, religions, histories, you name it. So it would not have been a conscious thing. Your take, Cam?
Yeah, I agree. I didn't have any particular model in mind when I was contributing, and I think it was more about just exploring religiosity itself.
And Cam, just so you know,
I don't know
actually
how.
We can hear you quite clearly, but it's just your image keeps freezing. So every once in a while, it just looks like you're having a nap.
Well, no, I recommend you I recommend you run through an array of really ridiculous expressions, because then they'll just keep freezing up on those. They'll entertain us.
Right. My hair on fire and.
Well, and
Oh dear.
well, actually, one of the fans had asked, because obviously you both have books coming out, books that are close to development. So, like Steve, you have The God Is Not Willing, that's going to be coming out soon. So, here's a chance to plug it. Here's a chance to talk about your projects, and then Cam will move on to a little bit of talking about the Gistle if you wanted. So, Steve,
Plug it, eh?
well, you don't have to.
I know there's a question regarding the release date, and I'm not the person to ask that question. I have no idea what the release date is, and quite often I find out the book's out after it's been released. So no, I mean it's it is as I've described. It's a continuation of a few storylines and a few histories and some legacy to the events of the crippled god, or the Book of the Fallen anyways. And it was just sort of, it was nice to get back into that world and to sort of loosen up the writing style and re-immerse myself um, in that kind of more fast-paced style of writing. And that was a lot of fun.
Okay.
There, fairly tepid plug. But, you know, here, is this one better?
I'll see if I can find like a thumbnail or something of the new cover, and I'll just put it over like my face or something. And it's like, this is what he's talking about. We don't need the CAP. We'll just put the cover up.
Yeah, all right.
And Cam, like the gistal.
The gistal.
Oh,
Well, I'm I'm hoping. Well, it should be finished this summer, so then it'll be in the hands of Bantam.
That was great because AP froze up there with this look of complete, you know, disgust and dismay. It was great.
It's the gistal. No, gistal.
Steve,
it rhymes
we
with
try.
the
We try.
What's that, Cam?
We try our best to bring that expression to him. And
True, it's true. We do.
It's the gistal, like crystal. It's the crystal of the Malazan world.
Exactly.
Um,
as the fan readers might know, it's an exploration of a continuation of the Paths of Ascendancy series, and the Malaz expansionism into the Falaran subcontinent.
yeah. Well, Ed, now that we've done the gratuitous plugging of your books, I'm so glad that I very rarely have to engage in any of that when I talk to you guys, because it must be so annoying that you go.
Well, here, here I'm going to plug the fact that I'm working on Walk in Shadow. These are some notes. There we go.
Well, it's a good thing you were waiting. Someone's going to try and freeze frame that and
I
zoom
know
in
they
and
are.
go.
You just might, you know. Oh well.
Oh, someone else. Does the content of The God Is Not Willing contain any spoilers for the first two books of the Carcanis trilogy? I'm trying to think of.
Well, you've read it. Can you think of anything? I can't.
No.
No.
I can't think of anything in it. But actually, bizarrely enough, this brings us on to the whole question about spoilers, not spoilers, and this sort of thing. Because obviously, like, I've tried making videos, and it is so incredibly difficult to do any sort of analysis when you go, right, if I do a prologue analysis, you go, I can look at that prologue, but I have to warn people there might be spoilers for stuff preceding it. And then now, because both of your series are completely interwoven, it becomes very difficult to go, okay, this may impact your reading of X book, Y book, that series. There's a reference here. As authors, like, do you have preference or do you worry about spoilers in interviews?
I think I've spoiled a number of times. I remember a few spoilers sort of accidentally showing up when I talked to that pub full of fans in Dublin. I'm sure some spoilers showed up there, and that was recorded. I mean, my major spoiler is that, and I'll announce it right now, is that I finished the 10-book series. There we go. And Cam finished his 6-book series. So those are spoilers in and of themselves. So.
Because you do realize at the start of this, I'm going to have to put like a big warning up saying, like, spoilers all, because I'm not moderating content to go, oh no, but this is, nah, we can talk about whatever we want. So Cam, what about you? How do you feel about spoilers?
Right. Yeah, I do worry about it. I mean, I don't want to, ruin
Oh, Cam, he's disappeared on us.
That's the death of the author. We've killed the author off.
He was going to spoil something, I'm sure.
Esslemont the dubious.
Yes.
Esslemont the dubious,
Oh.
I seem to recall. You're back.
Back. Oh, it's unstable.
Much like you.
Frozen again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Much
very
like you.
unstable.
You're in Alaska.
We can keep going, and you can just edit. So
Sorry, sorry to interrupt here, but do you honestly think I have the ability to edit properly?
I have faith in you, AP.
Clearly, you haven't watched any of my
No,
videos.
I'm going. No, I'll say that it's actually reached the point where it's impossible to worry about that.
Oh. So you were going to tell us about spoilers, Cam?
Yeah, I was saying that all the readers are at different points so it's impossible to avoid a spoiler for someone, I think. And someone's going to be behind the curve of whatever particular moment you're talking about. So I think at this point, if you're a reader and you're really worried about spoilers, then I think you need to step back and think about the bigger project that Steve and I have here, where spoilers don't really matter, because it's more about the entirety of the experience.
But so even thinking about spoilers in general, I'll tell you a very quick anecdote. Many years ago, if you remember, there was a film called Titanic with Leonardo DiCaprio, and the Celine Dion song played for an eternity. And at the time, I had been dragged along to see it by an acquaintance, and she desperately wanted to see this film, and I had no interest in it. But had been right, okay, fine, we'll go. And we were standing in the queue, and me being the perfect gentleman was whining about having to go and see this film that I did not want to go and see. And I said, I can't believe we are standing in the rain to watch a film about a boat that sinks. At which point, I get smacked across the back of the head by someone else in the queue, and this woman is standing there with this scowl on her face and go, way to spoil the film for me. At which point, almost everyone else within hearing range sort of turned around and was like, it's the Titanic. That wasn't a spoiler. It's in the trailer. But for that person, that fact was a spoiler, where it was absolute general knowledge to the rest of the entire planet. And so it's my perception of spoilers. There are very few things that can be spoiled by hearing about a plot point, because unless it's a murder mystery whodunit and someone tells you the answer to the puzzle at the end, that's about the only sort of literary equivalent that I can think of where everything hinges on that information. The vast majority of books, for me at least, are the reading experience of finding out how you get there and all the different aspects and things explored to get to the end or that conclusion of the narrative.
Yeah, I think
it's the experience.
No, go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, it's the experience that matters. Yes, that's exactly true. And we're not writing a whodunit. Although maybe who dies, some people might hang on to that as a spoiler.
Who died in it?
Oh, Steve.
Who died?
But What do you think, Steve?
I think for both the style of writing that Cam and I are engaged in, plot points are they're little jumping stones across the stream, and so they're not as important as the consequences of the events and actions that happen. That's where sort of that's what we want to explore, and that's what we try to explore. So yeah, I get it if people have invested in particular characters and then, you know, they find out that character's days are numbered in the books. That can be a bit disappointing. But at the same time, for almost all the characters that I offed at some point or another in the series, I was well aware of where they were going all along. And so that kind of fed into what I was writing in terms of creating those characters. So there's foreshadowing, there's probably an undercurrent of finality in even, you know, every one of the scenes they're in. And that, you know, that's already there. And I guess if somebody really wants to read carefully, they can start sort of picking up those echoes of mortality in certain characters. But you know, it's.
Yeah, because, well, to be perfectly honest, I think if we told everyone about how Scooby-Doo appears in the middle of The God Is Not Willing, that would kind of ruin the experience for them. You know, it would spoil that plot point.
Well, you've done it now, AP.
It's a crossover.
Yeah.
I'm now actually imagining Scooby-Doo coming in and meeting up with the Hounds of Shadow and the Daragoth and they're all just hanging out. Then Scrappy comes along and someone eats him. Sorry, I'll just amuse myself in the corner.
So here's a major spoiler: is they all die. Everybody dies. They all everything. Eventually, they all die.
Yeah, it's pretty much true. Yeah.
Oh dear. But no, it's because it is something that the internet has certainly accelerated a focus on. That this idea of, you know, everything has to be about spoilers, and there's no real context to information anymore. It is either spoiling something or not. And you go, but if you look at a film trailers now give away so much of the plot of a film that you can almost, for a lot of big blockbuster films, you watch the trailer and you go, I know 95% of what's going to happen now.
Yeah. Most trailers are just a synopsis of the film.
But it's like, knowing that the Titanic was going to sink, would you have considered that one a spoiler?
Well, I mean, now that you've told me, I'm glad I never saw the film. You've ruined it.
Yeah. And what's the name of the boat in that film anyway?
Yeah.
The Lusitania.
Of course.
Well, before I ruin anyone else's day, let's go to another fan question.
Shall we?
Eric McLuhan said, I am assuming that the different topics each chose are based on what they ran. For example, Cam seems to be in charge of the Crimson Guard. Have there ever been any events that came out in the books that were never revealed in gaming? There's a couple of follow-up questions. So let's start with that starting bit. Because you've both spoken about how you gamed together, you ran games together. One was a GM, one was a player, and you switched about and you took turns. The world is entirely shared. That you were both involved in the creative process every step of the way. So you've also mentioned, we sort of carved up continents and plot lines, and that's what we were going to go off and write. But that's
the distribution of who does what actually wasn't based on who ran which game. and I'm pretty sure because, for example, Gardens of the Moon, I ran a lot of that originally. Steve's player character was Krupp, so if we were following the logic that I wrote the novels based on the games I ran, then early Darujhistan would have been mine. But no, we just sort of did whatever we wanted after the gaming was done, and I don't think it guided us in that sense.
No, I agree. I mean, some of the gaming that I really had a blast with, I was playing various characters of the Crimson Guard. Fingers and blues and so yeah, I think we were just sort of all over the place in that kind of stuff. Whatever interested us is what we'd write about. And it did feel like that was kind of phase 2 anyways. We'd already sort of retired in a sense in terms of our gaming because we weren't living in the same city anymore. And so the writing stuff was a distinct and separate project in a lot of respects.
And the second half of the question is oh yes, a great deal of material has emerged that was not in the game, and Steve and I are always eagerly looking forward to seeing new stuff from each other.
Yeah.
Well, that leads into one of the questions that someone had asked that I was really interested in, which is, which of the books that you have written was your favorite one to write? Not necessarily which is your best, and we're going for the sake of actually, let me rephrase. Which is the second favorite? Because the first favorite is obviously going to be the one that's about to come out. So now that we've said that that's the first favorite, what's your second favorite? Cam?
Of our own material?
Yeah, of your own material.
Oh, that's a no-no. We're not supposed to pick favorites.
Well, it's like children. Clearly, you have a favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, but you don't say it.
Well, okay then. Which of Steve's books then do you like the best?
I mentioned Gardens. It has a real I have a warm spot for it because I recognize so much of the gaming in it. But I think other than that, I really liked Toll the Hounds, I think would be mine.
Yeah. And Steve, about Cam stuff. I remember this is about a personal preference. This is not going, oh, this is the best. It's, which is the one that you enjoyed the most of Cam's?
Well, I have 3 answers to that. The first one was probably because of the nostalgic factor and Cam and I were both going through in the process of writing our first books. This was the first time we took everything that we had gained and we were fictionalizing and putting it into what it looked like to all outward purposes to be novels. And so we were sending stuff back and forth to each other when he was writing Return of the Crimson Guard and I was writing Gardens of the Moon. And that experience, I mean, it was very much, Cam was my audience and I guess I was his audience for the first read-throughs. That was really a blast, an absolute blast, because it just seemed there was so much potential and possibility. Then the second answer I would give would be Night of Knives, because it was Cam's first, in a sense, official foray into publishing through PS Publishing, and it's such a tight little story. It's an awesome little story. And then I'd say Blood and Bone. I'm assuming it's Blood and Bone. It's the one with the jungle march. Yeah, I've never seen sort of the jungle setting done as well in fantasy. I remember Howard did a few of his short, Conan stories and a few others in jungles, but nothing like what Cam did in his one. And that sense of knowing, my knowing that Cam has traveled through the jungles of Cambodia just added to it. You know, you got that real sense of authenticity to it. So there you go.
And obviously, like, you'd recognize jungles because you've been to a few as well, Steve.
Yeah, but you know what? I suspect Central American jungles are a fair bit different from. Well, Cam, you've been to both, so yeah, you can answer that one.
The Mayan highlands were very similar to Southeast
Were they?
Asia.
No.
Yeah, the Petan and
Mhm.
but the other areas are more arid.
What, the other areas of
So
Central America, Belize?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Once you leave behind the main, like the Guatemalan border area, and it's really dense there. But then it thins out towards the shores.
It does, yeah. I remember scrubland and stuff. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
This was something Steve and I had been chatting about one night, because I was asking, was there a real world locale that had inspired Malaz City? And so, Cam, I want your answer before I say what Steve said it might have been.
Oh my God, I don't think there is. I mean, maybe since we're on the subject, Belize City, maybe.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And the reason Steve is so ecstatic.
I did not know that.
What?
What was that, Cam?
I just said I didn't know that. So sorry, AP, go ahead.
Well, no, it's the reason Steve is so ecstatic is he was going, I think Cam and I had discussed it as Belize City, but I can't remember. And I don't want to say that in case Cam says something else.
No, we hadn't discussed it at all.
No.
It's more of an amalgam of various seedy ports and rundown waterfront dive towns that we've been to.
Yeah, but it's true. I mean, as soon as AP asked me that question, I started thinking about it, trying to find, you know, what the inspiration might have been. The first thing that came to mind was Belize City. You know, the open sewers, that real sort of, mind you, we're talking about the early 80s, right? So I don't know what Belize City's like now, but it was a rough place.
And yeah, I don't know. It was a very rough place. The walls along some of the compounds had broken beer bottles set in them.
Yeah.
With jagged edge glass along the top of the fences. Like very rough place. But that was the 80s. And when I was there, that was a couple of years after, Steve, you were there. It had been whacked by a hurricane fairly recently. So the shacks were half collapsed and half rebuilt.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I remember this first thing I remembered was every hotel, and of course we weren't staying in the one nice one, but every hotel, all the windows were barred, and there was no opening windows. And the proprietor of the hotel would look at you and say, once it gets dark, don't go outside. And so that was sort of the rule for Belize City at the time.
Yeah. I was about to say, hang on, the broken glass along the tops of walls, I remember that from my childhood here.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah. Sadly so, yes.
Well, we had a spot of bother the last few nights. Always great to go back to the bad old days. Sorry, by the way, every time I do this, I'm trying to see the questions that were sent in. So I don't mean to be rude, but I can't really put them up on the screen and record this at the same time because I don't know how technology works.
I just thought you were doing a crossword.
It says that, or one of the questions was, why is it that the Leosin and Andy seem to have multiple long-lived characters, but they either don't?
Yeah, I echo Cam there.
Not by design. It's just how we fell into writing. We've had a lot of Andy and a lot of Liu-san characters, but we just haven't explored the idea as much.
Yeah.
Someone wanted advice on how to get on their level, and not only the choice of words, and not only show, don't tell and stuff like that, but how to learn and think in literary terms to write, or study literature at the sort of level that the two of you incorporate into your writing.
I would say read outside the genre. Don't limit yourself to just reading fantasy or science fiction or detective novels. Go into contemporary literature, classical literature. Take courses at the community colleges or universities, and you can just sit in and get reading lists. Pursue creative writing academically.
Yeah, I think creative writing approaches, reading lists and stuff with a different eye than English literature. I think that they're two, quite different things. So, yeah, I think blending the two and seeing that I would think a professor of English literature will be looking at a particular book in a very particular way. That is very different from a writer discussing that book with respect to the process of writing and the craft of writing. They're two very different things. So yeah, creative writing would be certainly one area to explore. And the other great thing with creative writing classes is that they teach you, or rather, they generally do. Anyways, they teach you to have a fairly thick skin when it comes to being critiqued. You write and you lay your soul on the line when you're writing, and then one of the most sort of daunting things is to hand that over into the hands of other people. But what creative writing does is the class tends to be, they're all in the class for the same reasons. So it's a bit more welcoming in that respect, a bit more of a safe environment to discuss the craft of writing and specifically your own work. And at times you're gonna put in a story and it's gonna get completely trashed, and then you have to sort of crawl away bleeding and then try to put things back together and sort of regenerate your own enthusiasm for the act of writing. And Cam, you and I both did experience that in undergraduate and graduate. And it does, it toughens you up, or it wipes you out. It's one or the other. So,
well, I think you're right. It's safe. It should be safe. A well-run creative writing session is a safe place for the author. But on the other hand, and I'll back up and back up in that, one of the things it can teach is that you're no longer so precious about your material. And you need to, that needs to be broken, that personal connection to the material. Some people can't do that. But once you can step back and realize that these suggestions are all meant to try and improve the piece and accept that and try and work them, then you've made a big step as a writer, I think.
That's a great point. Yeah.
So,
it kind of forces humility upon you in some respects, but also, like you say, that detached or that distance, that emotional distance that I think one needs in order to be able to hear criticism. Yeah.
So you're saying that whenever I write an editorial note to you, that I should go, "Oi, Cam, listen up."
It's like
What was that thing from gaming that you had when a player was about to do something really, really stupid that you gave them a warning with a sort of divine hand or something?
Yeah.
What was it?
Cam?
What was that yours, Steve? I don't, it doesn't ring a bell.
You don't? I thought it came from you. It was the divine slap of reason.
What? Oh.
I think we use it.
I thought you were talking. Yeah, I thought you were talking about something else.
All right.
An actual.
What's he going on about?
The old the dope slap.
I'm completely lost. I have no idea what you're talking about.
No, me neither.
But was it the divine slap of reason?
Yeah.
I'm just imagining the two of you sitting there, and it's like, yes, Anomander Rake draws his sword, and it's a giant hand appears, slaps him across the face. Are you sure you want to do that?
Cam, didn't you tell me a story about a group you gamed with where they found this sort of giant circle of darkness suspended in a room, and everybody walked through it? And then at the end of it all, the GM just said, well, you all walked into a sphere of annihilation, and it's game over. Was that you?
Maybe, I can't remember, but that sounds like something that may have encountered at some point.
Mm.
And I suppose like the type of gaming that you guys did wasn't, because obviously a lot of the gaming that I had been looking at for study was inspired by what you do in computer games, the computer game variant where everything is that sort of plot token focused, work your way through the story, collect these items and fight tougher and tougher enemies. But a lot of the gaming that you were doing was much more narrative based.
Yep.
A lot of staring at each other and daring each other to do something even more stupid.
It's true.
I have to, one of these days, well, next time we're all down at ICFA, we'll try and get Steve to start talking like Krupp to see if so he could get back into the patter, and we'll do it at the banquet so that, you know, as soon as they're in the black tie and everything, and by the end of the banquet, he's just talking as Krupp the entire night.
That would be exhausting.
It would. Yeah, especially for all of you guys. Yeah.
Someone was asking, are either of you interested in creating another massive world to set a new set of stories in?
Oh God, no.
No.
Why not? Like, you just knock one of those up in the afternoon.
We're writing stuff together.
Was that Cam?
Well, we're both writing science fiction. We're both writing pieces in other universes. So we do step out into other fictional realms.
Yeah, I mean, we'd probably have to, game everything all over again. It's like in a whole new world, and we're just, we're not there. That's behind us, I think.
It was fun at ICFO when one time we were at the poolside, and we did conversationally run a short little game, speculating about what would happen if Shadow Throne had some minions who we sent out to find some, item that he wanted. And they went out and gathered it and brought it back to him, this mythical, this great, who knows, perhaps powerful item. And they bring it to him, and he takes it and he goes over to his mantle and he puts it up on the mantelpiece and he looks at it, and then he moves it a little bit to the left, and then he waves them away.
Oh,
That was fun. That was very fun.
I miss those times. Oh, here's a question. Are there any plans to write about the bridge burners and their time in Mott Wood?
Yes, there is.
Oh, well, that answers that then. Moving on.
Well, we hope to get to that eventually. Yes, that's on the list, and that'll be good fun. But
Yeah,
that's a ways down the road.
Well, like you do have other novels that you're currently writing. So, I mean, I'm assuming that the queue of novels that you want to write is getting longer and longer and longer.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's not diminishing. I don't know why it's not. It should diminish, but it's not.
No.
Sorry, Steve.
I was wondering myself, are you going to use any of the elements from our Black Dog Blues film script when you get to Mott Wood?
I may. I mean, I'll ask for permission. There's some great scenes, like that opening scene.
Yeah.
The may have changed in. I understand that it went through a lot of rewrites, but originally we had
it didn't.
A river.
No, it didn't.
So the river crossing is still there?
Yeah. It's gone through no rewrites at all, Cam. So whatever version you've got is the version.
Oh, okay. I thought you'd picked it up with someone else. And
no, that was Lawn Maintenance. That's gone through so many rewrites I don't even recognize it anymore. Yeah, but not Black Dog Blues. No. Nobody touched that one.
Yeah. So for the more general audience, Steve and I wrote a screenplay pretty much based in that experience, the bridge burners in Mott Woods. And it was one of our full-length feature films. And who knows, I could cannibalize portions of it, I suppose. But that's on my list, and I hope to get to it.
I hope so too, because the Mott Irregulars.
Yeah.
Sometimes
intimidating, very intimidating.
Sometimes I look at what the two of you came up with, and I am absolutely convinced that you were out on these archaeological digs in the middle of nowhere for far too long, because that's the only explanation for how insane some of this stuff actually is.
Certainly possible.
Yeah, some of the things that we did on those digs were just so outrageous that they couldn't go into the books.
No, they couldn't. No.
Well, what happens on digs stays on digs. Isn't that the old credo? Unless obviously you write a novel about it.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say that regarding Guinevere, this would be a novel that is about the Malazan invasion in the north of the continent, and a portion of that would be Black Dog Woods, Mott Woods, that area.
No.
Okay.
Okay. So this is a question about. Obviously, there's been discussion over the last couple of years about certain fantasy authors not delivering a book within what fans consider a timely manner. And someone was wondering what your opinion was on the sort of the contract between author and fan, the sort of how that seems to have changed slightly over time, that fans seem to be demanding more of, no, this is ours, we want it now, sort of thing.
I think that's a product of time. I mean, shortened patience, immediate gratification. It's a cultural thing, perhaps. We're just losing our ability to stave off gratification.
Yeah. And, it's, I mean, writers put enough expectations on themselves, yeah, sort of without the added pressure. But at the same time, there is a kind of, I guess, an expectation, or almost a kind of unwritten contract that does imply sort of, I guess, mutual, not even mutual, but if you're going to write a trilogy, that's your ambition, that's your goal. And if you don't, for whatever reasons, you don't actually finish, or you get blocked, that is just simply a condition of humanity. We're not perfect, and we fight our own demons, and all of these things can actually basically undermine the energy and the efforts and the will and the intentions and all the rest of the author. And then to be judged on that basis can be pretty, that's even rougher. And if the author is then, being consistently judged in a negative fashion, not just for, a week or 2 weeks or whatever, but for years, that's a hard thing to handle for any mortal. So, but I mean, at the same time, I don't think there's an author out there, regardless of where they are in a series, who, if they, if somebody, showed up and granted them their finished novel, and just said, I see you're having a hard time here, so I'm just going to magically produce the novel that you've been struggling with for all these years, that author would grab it in an instant, just in order to escape the grinding day after day pressure of both writing, but also of not writing when you should be writing. These are all, these are things that we battle on a regular basis. I know personally, COVID has just exacerbated it. And I know, Cam, you write at home, don't you? But I mean, I write in cafes, and this is just, just slammed me, to a halt for a long period. But,
well, it slammed me here at home, because here at home, there's so many other things to attend to. Yeah. I mean, I can't escape all these other things. Well, and I agree entirely with what you're saying about all of that, of course. But I'll also add that there's a third party involved, which is the publisher. Mm-hmm. And I have read a lot of very promising first novels that are purported to be the first installment in a whole world or a trilogy, and then nothing, because they didn't sell enough, and the publisher just read it. So we may go into this with all the best intentions, but if the publishers don't want to pursue the material, then readers aren't going to see it.
It's a very good point. It's a very good point.
And I have to admit, out of any of the authors I've ever met, I don't think a single one of them ever was like, oh no, I'm just going to write this one and then just leave it. I mean, every author I have ever met is so passionate about getting their novel down, getting it finished, getting it to people. They want to tell the story, but life gets in the way. And like COVID is the perfect example of this, where some people are saying, oh no, but you're sitting at home, you have all of this time now, and you go, but the pressures of being cooped up where you're outside of your normal routine, the fact that other things have crept up, that family, friends, tragedies have happened, that these things, this life intrudes. And unlike a 9-to-5 job where you can clock in and clock out, when it's something creative, some people can tune everything out and focus. Like we know a couple of authors that go, it's this time, I'm away to write for 3 hours. They disappear, they write for 3 hours, and they come back. And it is an amazing talent. Yes. And then there are other authors we know who go, I'm meant to be writing, but I'm still working through that scene in my head, and there's no point sitting banging my head against a keyboard if it's not going to work. So authors are individuals, but I've never met a single one that didn't want to finish the book and to get it out there in the best possible form that they could. And sometimes things flow really easily and really well, and other times, for whatever variety of reasons, it takes them longer. So, that would be my 2 cents, just looking at it as a reader that who's had the benefit of knowing a couple of authors, that all of you have always been so I think you're your own harshest critics at times about what you have to be doing, and I don't think there's anything that someone on the internet can say that would make you work harder, because you're already pushing yourselves when you can.
Yeah.
Are there any films, TV shows, or books coming out that you've heard of that you're actually eagerly, that's easy for me to say, that you're eagerly anticipating?
Well, I'm looking forward to Becky Chambers' next book, whenever that comes out. Huge fan of her stuff. But in terms of film and television, nothing really jumps to mind.
Not even June?
No. I mean, yeah, I'm hopeful for it, but I don't really, when it shows up, I'm sure I'll watch it. I'll try to make a point of ignoring all reviews. I tend not to look at reviews of television and film, or even books. I'd rather sort of make up my own mind on these things. So I ignore all, when the hype shows up, I kind of ignore it. And I know there's hype on Dune. There's hype on Wheel of Time. I think the remix of Lord of the Rings, or pre-Lord of the Rings, whatever it is, there'll be hype on that. But it may also be, there was a lot of hype regarding Star Trek Discovery, and look what happened there. There's a lot of hype on Picard, and so, yeah, it's just hype. That's what it is, right? So,
Cameron?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the Villeneuve's visualization of Dune. I really would like to see that. And I'm not a big fan of the MCU, the sort of this juggernaut drawn from comics. So I mean, the big spectacular superhero movies, and that seems to be dominating things right now. But I'm not particularly enthused by them. Although I did enjoy WandaVision. I liked it was very creative, and it was an attempt at something different. I enjoyed that. But otherwise, yeah, I don't really sit and hope or wait for this or that to come, and I don't really anticipate things too much myself.
No, because I am looking forward to June. June was one of those books that I read as a teenager and I thought was absolutely brilliant, and it was amazing. And I remember the David Lynch movie and going, that's not how I remember that scene. But there was something about that visualization of it that I still thought that was actually really cool. That was really interesting. It wasn't how I pictured it. It wasn't how it was described in the book, but it was an interesting way to approach it. And so I'm actually really looking forward to this new version of Dune, because again, we all know what the story is. There's not going to be a spoiler in it. Like, we know exactly what's going to happen. What I want to see is, I want to see how it's been realized, how they translate that, what they choose to keep and what they choose to lose. Because that's a big, fat, chunky book with lots of brilliant narrative threads that I think modern filmmaking would go, but that doesn't go anywhere, or that's not important, get rid of that. That they try to trim it down. And I'm always fascinated by what ends up getting conflated or compressed, what ends up getting completely excised. What story are they going to make out of the novel? So that's why I'm looking forward to that one. Would either of you have an interest in co-writing with the other person? Like doing a Malazan novel or novella where one of you writes one set of POVs and the other set, or you alternate chapters?
Yeah, as we had mentioned, I think we did try it once. We alternated chapters. We didn't finish the work,
No.
but I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed his chapters much more than I enjoyed mine. I'll tell you that.
But that isn't that the problem, though. I mean, because I enjoy yours more than I enjoyed mine. So it's it's like you set up a thread. I said, oh man, I want to follow that one, and that sort of unplugged my interest in following the thread I'd set up. So.
But how do you guys survive as actual authors? Right now.
What's that? Cam? What?
Hey, Pete? I was gonna say that we kind of have our hands full right now with we're committed to other projects. But just for that question, yes, we did actually set out and tried it, and it wasn't a disaster. I just felt that it was a two-headed beast. I wasn't certain that it was a one-headed beast, in the end. So.
Yeah, and of course we started co-writing scripts, film scripts. So, which is very different because it's in person for one thing, which makes it so much more entertaining and so much more fun. Is you feed off the other person's energies and creativity. So that felt a little bit different, each of us going off into isolation to write our section and then firing it off, to the other person. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So AP, when we wrote the film scripts, we would be at in a cafe and we'd have a legal length pad between us, and then I would write a scene with dialogue and then pass it over to Steve, and then he would continue the scene or start a new scene, and they just went back and forth like that on the legal pad between us.
Yeah, and whoever wasn't writing was thinking about the next scene, so there, it was an ongoing process. So it was fairly quick, I think. I don't think it took us.
Yeah, we didn't have to back up very often at all.
No.
No, we just sort of tweaked the dialogue, things like that.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that both of you have ongoing projects. I'm thinking, is that more possible now, even though everyone's in all these different places because of stuff like this, the video chat, the idea that you can have a regular video chat set up where you're both working on the same document on screen and chatting and sharing it that way. But remote working is never going to be exactly the same, but it's almost more possible to do that now than it would have been, say, 20 years ago.
Not while Cam's still in Alaska. No.
Not while Steve's still in Victoria.
Well, at least you've got internet.
Just imagine if
I hear they've got airplanes in Victoria. I think, and they fly both ways, you know.
Yeah, yeah. But you got snow up there. I'm done with snow.
Yeah, we got too much snow.
But I'm just about, because of the lag, it'll go, Steve will say, right, Cam, your turn to write. And there'll be nothing happening. And then suddenly, like, an entire 10 pages appears. He's like, oh shit, that was quick.
Well, today it's slow, but other times it's been okay. So I suppose, someone could try it as an experiment. I'm not eager to dive in right now at this point.
Have you ever considered letting other authors play around in the Malazan world, to write in the Malazan world and release their own stories?
I think only if it was a game. If it became a RPG, I think that it could open up.
Sorry, Cam, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I didn't catch that.
Sorry, I think if it became a game, like if it was an RPG, then I think it could open up to other authors for material, modules, things like that. Can you hear me?
Yeah, probably because we wouldn't have time ourselves to actually work on it. Is that realistic?
Probably so.
Yeah.
Well, that's because I remember seeing some of the old gaming notes that Steve still had, and they are in no order whatsoever. And he keeps saying, but Cam has all of the notes. Cam has all of the notes. He has everything. It's all, and it's probably all very organized.
No, I don't think I have Dick. I don't think I have anything. I'm sorry. From the gaming period, unfortunately, I've moved around. Well, we've both moved around a lot, so I can't use that excuse. I look at what I have, and very little of it goes back to the gaming notes. I've even lost Wu's player sheet, his
oh, no.
sheet. So yeah, lots of stuff is gone. Yeah.
Wu being, oh no, I won't remember it. Well, Wu being a character of a different name in the books.
No.
We won't spoil anything, shall we?
No, Steve, it's the ship has sailed on that one.
Yeah. That's out. That's in print.
That's out there. If anyone has looked at the blurbs on the back of Cam's Path to Ascendancy, you go, that information is out there. Kellenved is Wu.
Oh, you've done it now, AP.
Yeah, and actually, I have a question.
Spoiled it.
But this is going to go full series, whatever, spoilers on it. No one's going to mind about this. But so you had Wu became Kellenved, and then Kellenved becomes Amianus. How is it Amianus when there's no I in his name?
Yeah. Well, he's Amianus because Cam and I try to work out a name. I guess after Wu, it was going to be Amianus, and then he spelled it differently. Yeah.
It's going to be colonists. Well,
yeah. Go ahead, Cam.
We have to work out a name.
Right. I didn't catch what you said, but anyways, I think Cam ended up spelling it differently than I spelled it. So I spelled it Amianus, and then of course somebody, either you or me, suddenly realized that the word anus was in there, and that probably wasn't a good idea. But so we moved on to Kellenved at some point.
Yeah, because it's one of those things that sticks out to me. Oh, sorry, Cam.
Sorry, AP. We still have Amyanus, or I'm all mixed up. We still have it as his name in Shadow. A lot of the Shadow creatures use that term. Oh dear, is that a spoiler?
No. No, because it's in Gardens of the Moon.
AP says
no. It's in Gardens of the Moon that he's both Shadow Throne and he's also referred to as a man.
That one, yeah.
Yeah. I noticed on the questions, someone had asked which player character was who was Dancer and who was Callanbred. And so we can certainly answer that. I use Dancer as a POV, but he was Steve's player character and I was Wu, I was Callanbred when we were gaming. So that's that question.
Yeah, Dancer was an NPC. Yeah.
So if Dancer was an NPC, and so let's say Cam's running a game, Cam gets to control Dancer as an NPC, and then when you were running a game, Steve, did you control Dancer as an NPC, or was it no, that NPC always goes with so and so?
I don't remember.
I don't think we ever did that. I think whenever Callanbred was going to be playing, or I was going to be running him as a character, then Steve ran the game and ran all the NPCs.
Yeah. I don't even think I had a proper character sheet for Dancer. Like one, similar to, say, Anomander or Ralik Nom or Krupp or any of those. So I think he was always just an NPC.
And have you never been sort of tempted to have a scene whereby one of the Thelamin Tiblo or Toblakai comes up and gives Dancer a hug and then says, "Hold me closer, tiny Dancer"?
Oh. Yeah. We argue over who's going to write that scene all the time, AP.
We always wanted to be Dancer. Yeah.
Well, listen, I'm enjoying myself immensely, and we've kind of covered the vast majority of the fan questions because my phone's just broken, so I can't actually get any more. But was there anything that you guys wanted to talk about?
How about the first question, which was our best AP story? I think that.
Yeah. We could fire back that way.
I think that Steve has far better material here than I do. I don't have much to contribute, but I'm eager to hear what Steve might have.
I may have told the story, or AP, you may have told the story. It's the drive from Missoula to Victoria in one day. Has that one come up?
That story's already been told about the testing the endurance of the human bladder. Yeah, we'll stop in a minute. Oh, well, I'm just going to see if we can get to here. Well, I'm just going to see if we can get to here. Well, I think we might be able to make it to here. It's only 4 more hours.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought I could drive from Missoula, Montana to the ferry all in a single day. And we didn't leave until like 10 o'clock in the morning, didn't we? 10:30 even.
Oh,
yeah.
Steve's road trips sound exactly like mine. I'm notorious for never stopping.
That's funny. We're both like that, are we? It drives my wife crazy.
Apparently, yeah. I drove from Calgary to Winnipeg in 13 hours without stopping. Well, I bought a meal and got gas, but
yeah. Ken, do you remember that drive from Calgary to Winnipeg in the snowstorm after we'd been to that archaeology conference?
Oh yeah, I remember that. I don't want to remember it.
No, that was pretty hairy, wasn't it?
Some narrowly avoided serious accidents there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was close.
I'll say for me, when I first met AP, it was at the ICFA convention, and Steve said to me when we had been talking about things, and the subject of fantasy series came up and various series, and I think Harry Potter was mentioned, and Steve said, "Don't get AP started on Harry Potter." And so, so naturally, in the evening, I asked about it. What's this about you and Harry Potter series? And I should not have done that, because then a 2-hour rant ensued in which AP thoroughly destroyed the series.
Yeah.
In my defense, there isn't one, but you were warned, don't ask me about it. People warned you. Don't push the red button that says don't push. Oh, I know, what's that do?
Yeah, why? What happens?
I've calmed down about it a lot.
Oh, rubbish.
No, it's down to about a 45-minute rant now. It started out at about 3 days. I've trimmed it down. I've thinned it out a bit.
Yeah, you've condensed it, basically. Yeah, you practice it
just
for
the
so long.
bullet points.
Yeah, you can pull off the 3-day one in 45 minutes now. Yeah. But I think it actually applies, one could say that of AP in many subject matters. You can just say, don't ask AP about, blank, and just fill it in. Yeah.
I am so glad that I know you two. Friendship is such a wonderful joy.
Yeah.
But, we all have... It was different. I will say this in my defense about a lot of this stuff. It was different when I was working at a university where, every day that you were in work and you would talk to your colleagues and you got these rants out of your system. And because you had that discourse almost every day, nothing ever built up inside. It never became this ball twisted up inside you, the pressure mounting, that then once a year, when you go and you meet all of your friends and you're sitting down and they go, what about that thing? And it's explode.
Yep. AP, you have a law degree, and I often thought that you would have made a hell of a lawyer in a courtroom. You would have been, yeah.
But we all make choices in life, and not being a lawyer was something that was definitely the right choice at the time.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. A lot of the legal training is very, very similar to the training you get as a lit analyst. So when you study English literature, and of course, a lot of that training corresponds to what you do as an editor, and it's an interesting overlap between all of these different disciplines. And I'm always amazed when people say, oh, what are you going to do with that degree? And it's like, having done both law and English, I can go, well, but the only difference between them is law gives you some textual knowledge. And you go, but the techniques, the skills that you learn in both degrees are almost identical. And any employer who says, oh, I want someone with a law degree, but not someone with an English degree, I think it's because they don't recognize the skills that people learn when they study certain subjects. And that's all it is. It's not about who's smarter or anything like that. It's just about learning the technique.
Yeah.
Well, it's language. It's all language. Yeah.
Well, I was talking to Philip Chase the other day about House of Chains, and we were actually talking about the flint napping that occurs in that book. And, you know, the two of you are archaeologists. Flint napping, is that the extent of archaeology? Because it's all about these little shards and little chips. Like, I mean, now that I know about flint napping, am I kind of done? That's my archaeology degree over with?
Yeah, I would say so. I think you've covered it. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, we're actually really bad at it. It takes us 4 years to manage to one piece.
Yeah. Ken, do you remember
No, I think
on the Winnipeg River on the island, sitting on the shore there, were we flint napping then? I think we were, weren't we? Yeah, we were leaving.
Well, it was impossible to avoid the shards and the flakes. It was just completely covered in, because the sand had all been sucked by the water, and so it was just a mound of napped tools and shards and remnants.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if we were flint napping.
I think we did bring some back and tried some, but using stone tools to do it is very difficult.
Yeah.
Much
so who's
easier.
better at it?
Steve's probably better.
Not anymore. I mean, I stopped. I haven't done it in probably 25 years, thereabouts. Been a long time. I mean, you end up, bleeding basically from your hands.
Oh, yeah.
There was a classic film of the archaeologist Donald Crabtree, who sort of, at least in America, was the discoverer or rediscoverer of flint napping in the sense of experimental archaeology. And it's this old black and white film, and he's flint napping, and I think he creates an Acheulean hand axe or something. And you must have seen this, Cam, at the university, because they kept going, edits and cuts and stuff as they're putting the film together. And the camera's always down on his hands as he's flint napping. And with almost each minute, we were counting the added bandages on the fingers until by the end of it, his hand was just nothing but bandages all over the hands. And that's your classic flint napping.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll add in one lesson learned from archaeology, and sort of more of a note, and that's context. What I came away from it is realizing that it's about relationships, that the relationship between things is more important than the things themselves, and that's, I think, translates over to writing, to literature very well, and it was one of the, at least that's one of the lessons I think I took from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say, like, one of the major things that you learned from archaeology was everything is ritual.
Well, we all know that.
Yeah, I mean, that's, yeah. We learned that in the first year of university.
It's our where to hide. It's our cover. We go run under that.
It's a big archaeological dig. We have found a series of small walls, and in this bit, it looks like everything is focused into this corner. This must have been a ritual.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Or a bathroom.
Or important. That really, the assumption that, this must be important. Well, why? I mean, it's what happens to have remained. We can't ascribe importance at this point. That always irks me.
Yeah.
Well, we've been going now for a while, so why don't I finish up recording here, and it just remains for me to say thank you so much for the both of you for joining me. So thank you, Stephen Erikson.
Oh, you're welcome. This is fun.
And thank you, Ian C. Esslemont.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you, AP. Oh, and congratulations on your 1,000th subscription.
Oh, thank you very much. So, thank you everyone for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.